Well, my name's David Burton. I'm a community development specialist at the University of Missouri Extension, and I've been with Extension for almost 23 years in community development, leadership development, media relations, marketing is my background. But over the last 6 years, I've really been focused in on this niche interest area of neighbors and neighborhoods and leading a statewide team at MU Extension called the Engaged Neighbor Program. We're looking at the disconnect that exists in the United States among neighbors and how that translates into other areas of our life. The negative impact it has on our health, the negative impact it has on our communities, especially in light of this epidemic of loneliness. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal just this week about the loneliness of the American worker, and it focused in on more workers working from home. In 2018, 46% of American workers said they were lonely. This year, that number's up to 58% of workers, and working from home is a big part of that. And why this is important, if you're working, you would not be so lonely at work if you were not so isolated outside of it. And a way to overcome that isolation is through connections with your neighbors. And so that's some of what we'll be talking about. This disconnection is driving up staff turnover and worker absences, and it's making it a business issue for employers, executives, and certainly business owners.
As a kid, we knew all the people in our neighborhood, but that may be because our gang of kids terrorized the neighborhood, Mostly it was the people telling us to get off their lawns. And I remember you telling me one day, introducing me to the term of clicker. Is it clicker communities?
Yes, a clicker community is this American phenomenon where we drive into our neighborhood, we hit the click for our garage door opener, we drive in and we hit click again. It shuts our garage door, never to come out again for the rest of the evening. Even in my own neighborhood, where we've really been working over 3 or 4 years to build connections. I mean, we were one of those. We were a clicker. We were disconnected. Yeah, it hurt my pride, I've got to tell you. I mean, I had that critical moment when I realized that we had been in our house for 18 years and we only knew the names of one of our neighbors. Because as new people moved, as the other ones moved out and new people moved in, we didn't even bother to get to know them. And so I took a more direct approach in ringing doorbells and reintroducing myself with a plate of my wife's chocolate chip cookies, which I would add was a big sacrifice because she makes great chocolate chip cookies. And so I took more of a direct approach. You don't have to do it that way, but that's the way I chose to do it. And it was a little hard on the pride because I had to admit, I'd been pretty apathetical about making any connections or even learning names. But I wanted to do better. I don't want to put any guilt on you or anyone else because I was certainly in that boat. And we'll talk about that some in the presentation, just about what the culture has moved towards in terms of neighbor relationships. And when I talk about this issue, some people think I'm just being nostalgic or I want to take us back to the 1950s. And that's not what I'm saying. The 1950s weren't good for everybody. I'm not pushing nostalgic. I'm pushing that these neighbor connections is really how life should be. And so what can we do to improve that going forward? And it has, like I said, definite health benefits for you, benefits for your community, benefits for your employees. These connections are so important. They've been so important in my own life. And I'll tell stories about that, of what a difference that has made for us and our community connections just over the last 5 years that we've been working on it. Some will argue that social capital is the grease that keeps the economy going. So it's really very vital. We're going to learn about some current research that I've done that highlights what the current culture says about what makes someone a good neighbor. And I'm going to give you some tips and suggestions on how you can be a more engaged neighbor and what that could result in. And anytime I speak, we're going to have some laughs along the way, and share some stories, and probably most of them will be embarrassing about me and mistakes I made along the way. But I think that's an important tool to help learn, and we'll look at some good examples of things that can happen as well.